Today we want to look at dimensional vocabulary for geometric solid story problems. Basically, we want to look at the vocabulary so that we can solve word problems. Here's an example problem. You have a fish tank that has the following measurements. H equals 30 centimeters, W equals 25 centimeters, L equals 50 centimeters, and now you're to calculate the volume. The first thing we're going to have to do is figure out exactly what H, W, and L are. L is the length, W is the width, and H is the height. So what are the length, the width, and the height? Length tells how long something is, and normally it's measured from the closest point of some object to the point that's furthest away from you. Let's look at an example like this truck. What would its length be? Well, let's take the longest dimension, starting with the point that's closest to us, and measure to the point that's furthest from us. That's the length. Now our next dimension is width, or W. What is that? Well, let's look at another example. Take a look at this table. Width tells how wide something is. Normally the measurement is made from left to right as you're facing an object. Height, or H, is a measure of how high or tall something is. We normally measure something's height by starting at the bottom and measuring to the top. Looking at this tower, can you guess how we might measure its height? As you can see, we've started from the water level and measured up to the very tallest portion of the tower. Now let's do a quick review. I'll show you some pictures again and ask you how to measure a particular dimension. Then I'll show you how that dimension is measured on the picture. See if you can get them right. How would you measure the length of this truck? How about the width of this table? Now how would you measure the height of this tower? Now let's take a look at a smaller item like the fish tank from our math problem. Do you know how to measure the dimensions of length, width, and height? Let's start with L. You remember that L stands for length. Where is that dimension located? Now do you remember that W stands for width? Where is that dimension located? And finally, we know that H stands for height, and that dimension is measured from the bottom to the top. So now we know that L, W, and H stand for length, width, and height, and we know how to measure each of those dimensions on our fish tank. Now let's use the values that we were given from our problem, and remember that the volume for a rectangular prism is length times width times height. So our volume is 37,500 cubic centimeters.